Hi, my name is Liana, and my idea this semester is the s'mores bar. So my value proposition basically focuses on the fact that we're a late night dessert option, allowing people to create something themselves, and it's not a traditional option, but it has a fun summer atmosphere. So initially I thought my customer segments would basically be college students. Eventually I did realize that families, teens under 18, college students, and post-college grads, those are more customers throughout the day. College students was just my late night go-to, but I realized that there's a lot more that can be accomplished and more sales can be done throughout different times, and those different times bring different customers. So I only spent an hour interviewing about 8 people, so I really dropped the ball on customer interviews. However, the little customer feedback that I did get touched on a few pressure points. The people I interviewed basically agreed that there was a lack of or inadequate seating at the current places that they go to for desserts, so basically ice cream shops. There's also either a lack of options or too many options, and the wait time was also a cause for concern, especially when they're going late at night and there's only 1 or 2 people behind the counter and there's a long line of, mostly college kids. So I did not test any hypotheses. I should have tested a lot more. The ones that I did come up with was, is there a void in the current dessert options? Do people feel like they want something that is not being offered to them? When are people buying the desserts? Bakeries see a lot of sales during the day. However, I think younger customers like millennials typically go out at night for obvious reasons. It's after dinner. But who is going at what times, what's driving them, so what's driving the late sales and what's driving the daytime sales, who's buying what at what times, and what age groups or what demographics, is there a trend? And then would people rather make their own s'mores and then stay there and eat them? Would they rather make them and then leave? Would they rather buy ready-made and then leave, or buy ready-made and stay? So what's driving you there? What's keeping you there? What are your preferences? Is atmosphere as important as I think it is? Personally, I think it's important. I think of restaurants like the Cheesecake Factory where atmosphere is, it's huge. So is it that important to people my age? Is it important to different demographics? Things like that. And are people interested in having an alcohol menu with their dessert? So in terms of the business model canvas, I left the cost structure and key partners with question marks. I never really got to the key partners, so I definitely have to look more into that, especially since I want to have a more community-based business model. In terms of cost structure, I didn't do a lot of financial research. I focused more on doing the competitor analysis, the customer profiles, customer segments, the value proposition, and basically establishing what kind of business I want to do as opposed to looking up specific costs. So these are just some of the segments that I have. In terms of value proposition, which is I think the most important, we're a late night option, similar to insomnia. People want desserts late at night and they want them and they're willing to pay. So a little more for that. So I think that's definitely a market that I'm trying to get into. I think people enjoy going to buy treats and be served like at ice cream shops, but they're also willing to make it themselves like at froyo shops. So if you can combine both components and offer both, I think that's pretty unique. It's also a fun alternative to traditional options. The dessert industry is so saturated with ice cream and froyo and now cookies, but this is something that people love year round and especially in the summer, so I don't see why, a storefront can't capitalize on that. So in terms of resources needed, I definitely need money. The storefront time would be really nice, but also a partner. Clearly, I could have used someone to help me this semester with the customer interviews and really just any of the assignments and just kind of being that second person to help me along the way and motivate me. Because, it's one thing to drop the ball on myself, but to impact somebody else's progress, it's sometimes a bigger motivator for me. So I would definitely need somebody, whether it's family, a friend, or another investor, to help me with those tasks. In terms of finance, because I haven't really looked into it that deeply and I haven't decided for sure where I would like to start, my best estimate based on a few articles that I read about startup costs for restaurant would be a couple $100,000. And I would want to do this a few years after graduation, probably at least 5. It's something that is on the back burner. I'm not trying to do it initially after graduation, so it's definitely a future goal. And then in terms of milestones, the most important milestone for me, I think, would be purchasing a storefront. I think for me, once you do that, there's no going back. So doing that is such a huge step. And I think once that happens, the rest of it falls into place. But until you can have that tangible aspect to it where you can go somewhere and say, this is mine, I just think that would be incredible. But my overall goal for the business is to make something. I've never really made something that has my name on it, that has my stamp of approval, that I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into it. Not something for school, not something for work, but something that I wanted to do and I made it and I made it a reality. And that people enjoy it. So some of the major lessons I learned, I didn't really have any major pivots, probably because I didn't do too much extensive work on this concept. My minor pivot was to serve alcohol. It did cross my mind, sometimes when I was throwing the idea around, but after presenting in class and I got a lot of feedback suggesting alcohol, it was definitely an eye-opener that it's something that people want. So I would have to do more market research to verify. There is so much work involved in this, and this is just the business plan. And I don't say that to minimize the fact that a business plan isn't important, but Jesus, I mean, this was so much, and I didn't even launch it. There is a high level of interest in the idea. That was, it's always nice to hear positive feedback, but, in class, like hearing so much positive feedback that this was something that people would go to and that they would want is really nice. And also, I have to make time. If I really want to do this, I can't do what I did this semester and, have poor time management and just lack the time to do it. I really need to make the time if I'm going to make it happen. And finally, the MVP for this project is it's an updated take on a classic dessert. And like I said before, to get this off the ground, I need money, I need a team, I need people to help me, and I need time. So thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your break.